Good evening, Gearheads. Welcome to your Sunday night with Speed City. This is John Massengale sitting in the studio with Les Kaiser, and
Howdy.
Jonathan Green has joined us over Zoom. How are you, Les?
Oh man, doing good. I brought this big box of Girl Scout cookies in, and I don't know, they're evaporating or something.
I mowed through a couple of those myself. Jonathan Green, how are you, buddy?
If it was any better, it would hurt. No, I'm fine, thank you, sir. I'm here in my little mini studio, and me and Murphy are ready to go.
Awesome. Well, we have a fun show for you tonight, and we're going to jump right into it because we have our first guest already joined us via Zoom. Because there's some big news at Circuit of the Americas this week, and we jumped right on it and gave him a call and said, we need to talk to this gentleman because Mark Pannes is with it, and he's the new president for strategy and corporate growth. Mark, welcome to Speed City.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Man, I don't know if that's daunting or not to get called to the carpet by Speed City.
No, it's not daunting. It is an easy phone call to take.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to speaking with y'all.
Well, good, Mark. Well, you could not be joining Circuit of the Americas at a better time. You're coming off this massive USGP. You had a fantastic year last year with MotoGP, and they're coming back,
Yeah.
and the new asphalt out there. And hopefully we're coming out of this pandemic, if keep our fingers crossed, knock on wood. So it's an exciting time for you to be joining.
Sure, it's a really exciting time. In addition to all the positives you mentioned, the track over a decade took some time to mature and really develop a homegrown U.S. audience. And then running parallel to that, it was working on getting master planning approval through the processes with Travis County and the city of Austin. Those were approved right before the pandemic. So a lot of the initiatives that I think our chairman, Mr. Bob Epstein, and the rest of the ownership group had envisioned were tabled during the pandemic, as a lot of planning and initiatives were just across the board for sports, entertainment, and all kinds of aspects of life. We're coming out of that in a big growth mode right now. And as you said, we just hosted the largest Grand Prix of all time, largest Grand Prix weekend. So it's an exciting time at the circuit.
Yeah, that's fun to say, isn't it? The largest Grand Prix of all time in Formula One.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, Mark, I want you to talk about your background. You have a very impressive background and a very diverse background. So just give a little intro so people know a little bit more about you.
Well, thanks for that. I'm 30 years into the pro sports and sports media and entertainment industry. I did 10 years of it at Madison Square Garden. I was with the Knicks the whole time. I had a variety of different roles there, culminating with being chief marketing officer for the Knicks. I'm an attorney by training. I did that nights while I was working at the Garden. I went and became a banker for a number of years over in London, where I set up a global sports practice and happened to have a number of F1 drivers in that practice, and some MotoGP drivers. And you really, if you pick a global sport, we had athletes and institutions in those sports as clients. And then I was fortunate enough to become a CEO in a leadership position, really, for a couple different football clubs, soccer clubs, the Italian Serie A giant AS Roma, and most recently the Vancouver Whitecaps of MLS. So I've been able to do a lot of different things, but always with the through line of sports, and it's been a lot of fun.
Impressive. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, Mark, what interested you to this? Like you say, you've got a diverse background, football, basketball, and all the rest of it. But it looks, looking at your career, as though you like a challenge. What was interesting about the COTA idea?
The vision for what's coming in the next decade at COTA, the second decade, is really it's really exciting. I'm a builder by by background. At some point, you are what your resume says you are, and so I love stepping into situations where there's a lot of upside, a lot of work, and stuff that crosses the financing pieces of it, the strategy and planning pieces of it, the design pieces, and then ultimately putting them in place and building stuff and getting it operating at a very high level. And that's our goal, really, is to bring a whole bunch of new initiatives to Circuit of the Americas and have them really perform at an elite level and turn it into really a unique destination in global sports and kind of family entertainment. You typically have entertainment locations, or you have major sporting locations, and the vision here is to have really a number of family sports and entertainment offerings wrapped around the engine of the best new track that's been built in, I don't know, decades. So it's a very exciting combination.
That was awesome. I had an interesting conversation last week with somebody that asked, "I'm coming to Austin. When should I come? What are the plans or whatever?" And I got talking with them. I was like, "Well, there's a little bit of everything, and the music, all of that." And the joke was, "Well, yeah, you're going to take me out to COTA, aren't you?" I said, "Of course." And in fact, you can encapsulate everything at COTA.
Yep.
Well, Mark, can you talk about some of the things that you're going to jump in on that are already going, and possibly some of the new projects?
Yeah, so much of this is about weaving existing initiatives, existing assets that the Circuit of the Americas campus has with some new initiatives. So we have an awesome elite level track. We're building out the car condos. I don't know if you guys had a chance to talk about them. Yeah, the T11 car condo is amazing, right? So that's those two, that combination tees up perfectly for a private driving club, a super exclusive private driving club on the best track in the Americas, right? And then you overlay that with we're blessed with good weather here in Austin for all but a handful of really, really hot months, and it gets dark late. So there's, even when we're doing track rentals for OEMs, or if you have teams that come out and want to be doing some testing, or you have something like a Skip Barber Racing School coming out, they're still done by say 5 o'clock, 5:30, and you get a couple hours daylight. So the idea that we can tap the track and have it running for people who want to come out and sharpen their racing skills and just experience the thrill of driving at one of the best tracks in the world. There's all kinds of those opportunities, but it goes way beyond that. Our chairman's really been working on, we're in the planning stages, and with all these things, by the way, there's a caveat: you got to get them across the line, you got to get them financed, you still have to go through the approvals. But we're looking at bringing a hotel to the campus, which would then serve as an engine for all kinds of other things, like a water park. We're talking about expanding the amusement park assets that we have right now. We've just ordered about $20 million worth of world-class roller coasters to have on site. You start to lay those things together with some other planning that we have, and you start to see that it really becomes a multi-day destination. And so the goal would be, can we pull all these together? And then momentum breeds velocity, right? And so the idea there is, at some point it tips over, and it just becomes a place that people feel they just have to get to and experience.
Yeah, this is kind of what I envisioned from COTA from day one, and things take time, right? And there's different challenges, but this is what we had envisioned, that there could be everything from hotels to race teams and manufacturing industry coming around COTA. But if you look around Austin, this has happened. It's not necessarily all right in COTA, but there are race shops all over Austin now. There is some light manufacturing around racing here in Austin now. So all those things have come to our city, and I mean, it's just natural that they should come around COTA. But go ahead.
Absolutely, and in fact, there's no doubt that we're looking on bringing a high performance technology center. The track is designed so that the back half of the track can run on its own, and that can be really important. The load-in time is, as y'all know, the load-in time for MotoGP, and particularly for F1, can be much more than a week, as it should be, because of the size of the spectacle and the sophistication of the racing, and frankly, the way you have to optimize every element of it to make sure that not only is the track going to be as fast as it can be, and is it going to be as great a viewing experience as it can be, but that it has the highest safety levels that it can have for all of those that are racing. And so when you do that, in the current setup, we really can't use the track because you're working on so many things around the main grandstand and the paddocks and so forth. We're really looking at, can we perhaps put a second paddock in on the back half, and run the back half of the track so that when the front half is in preparation for major events, we can still keep part of the track hot. Those are the type of things I think that turn it into really a true 365-day facility for someone who's working on race performance and innovation. We're also looking at bringing in a high performance maintenance facility for people to bring in their supercars, because as you said, around Austin, look, there is no shortage of muscle and aerodynamic engineering for sure. There's some fantastic racing equipment.
Folks, there's one thing that I get asked frequently is, how does the place exist with just Formula One and just MotoGP and just, NASCAR, for instance? And I tell them, I was like, it hasn't been too long ago that Eric Paradise told me that it was well over 40 weeks a year were booked with activities that were not necessarily spectator. This weekend, you had a big SCCA event out there. I think was 350 some odd cars registered for it. I mean, the Mazda Nation showed up with over 70 cars on grid.
No, that's exactly right. I think this February we have 2 days that aren't hot. The track is hot, for 26 days, which is awesome, right? And by the way, it is so cool because, as y'all know, you have the different classes of cars, right? It's so, at 10 in the morning, you'll see just a whole series of, you see a series of Porsches out there. And you're like, this is amazing. And then by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you're seeing an entirely different series. And by 4:30, another one, and they're all getting out there and putting their laps in. It's impressive, but it also speaks to your point that just because it isn't one of the 3 main headline events, and by the way, those are as big as any in the world, right? Those series. There's a lot going on the track that doesn't reach that level, but very few things can reach that level from a public spectacle and an attendance standpoint.
Yeah.
Mark, there was one of the things that was asked after I got back from Germany. I got to take some public laps on the ring and had a good time there. And Eric Paradise and I spoke about it. And there's a way that on Thursday evening, for instance, we were there. The track was open for 2 hours, and you basically paid for 1 lap at a time, like a toll road, going through that. And I keep getting asked, how do we get that to happen at COTA? And so I'm going to come knock on your door. We're going to have that discussion.
No, they tease me because I have whiteboards up. Pretty much, if there's any open space on the walls in the office, it's covered with whiteboards because we're trying to map stuff out and see where we can go. And the buy lap, put your card in, swipe as you go out onto a hot track. That's up there. I don't know if we'll ever get there. I think we have some different ideas, but it's under consideration, as are just many ways we're trying to unlock the experience for people who just can't get enough of an elite driving experience.
Okay, you can put us in that group.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, Mark, we've got reams of our old Google Docs going back to 2012 that we're going to help you fill up that whiteboard. So, hey guys, let's get a quick break in. Let's get a break in, and we'll come back and we'll have more with Mark from Circuit of the Americas. Back after these messages.
Hi, this is Bob Varsha, commentator for Sports Cars, Barrett-Jackson, Collector Car Auctions, and more. You're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
We need to get Bob's little bumper there updated because he's doing Formula E now.
Yeah.
So.
And Formula Extreme.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I don't think you had that in there as well. Well,
Speed City.
That's true. He does need to add Speed City. If you were not with us in the first segment, we have COTA's Mark Pannes. He's the new president for strategy and corporate growth, and we are talking about just that, about what are the possibilities, the things that could and will happen at COTA. But Mark, let's just step back a little bit now, and I want to ask you this: in your position, you've done so many things. What made you think that this, why did you decide to take on this challenge? Because this, COTA is a big behemoth.
Yeah, well, that's a big part of it. That's exciting, right? You add on top of it, you have an excellent ownership group that's been quite stable, right? Super stable ownership group over the last decade. And then, you know, you can layer on a real appetite from our chairman on down through our staff, to really engage the community. You know, the vision for COTA's growth really tracks along with the vision for Central Texas, you know, the greater Austin area's growth. And I think that's why you see, you know, COTA has developed over time a place in people's minds that it's a go-to in the community, right? So when they needed vaccination sites, you know, COTA ended up being a place for 4 different counties. When they roll out a Mother's Day food drive, they're able to collect enough food to generate 2 million meals over time. And when, you know, anything, it's hurricane relief, you know, where do people go? Where are they looking to wrap their arms around and say, this place is part of our community? So for me, for someone who came down to Austin in 1986 to go to the University of Texas, to see how the city's grown and to see that there is a real, you know, muscular professional sports institution in town that wants to be a center of the community. I mean, that's a very special thing. I really felt that this was just an extremely unique opportunity. And so when I started having some conversations with Mr. Epstein earlier in the summer and joined on in August to do some consulting, we've just been working on what's the vision, what's the growth, how are we going to get there, how are we going to make this place literally the premier sports and entertainment destination in North America. And, you know, and it's sitting in the bullseye in the center of Texas, which is, as a state's on wildfire growth right now. So, you know, it all kind of lined out perfectly. And it's just awesome to think about the potential that we have going forward.
Obviously, Austin itself, I've been here now 11 years, and I too was at university here in Dallas in the 80s, and I've seen Austin go from being that small town. But the biggest thing that strikes me today in 22 is just the sheer tech movement from California. And, you know, I'm sure that's part of your plan to involve the Dells, the Ciscos, not that they may not already be involved, but in a big way. I mean, Elon Musk's built a little tiny factory just across the road from you.
You don't say.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, surely that must be part of, I mean, we're not going to get into specifics, but I'm sure as you know, sort of think about the future, that's got to be a big part of the plan.
If there's one thing that's been the hallmark of you know, Formula One racing and moto as well, but specifically Formula One, it has been always at the absolute forefront of technological innovation. And so that maps so well with not just these major companies that are making huge investments into Austin, the metro area, but also the people who work on those companies, right? What's their appetite for engaging in F1 and engaging in the most sophisticated cars, in watching the technology that goes into the engineering and the telemetry. It's just, you know, it aligns so well. And I mean, remember when Austin didn't get Amazon 2? People were like, oh, that was a missed opportunity. I mean, how many thousands of tech jobs, tens of thousands of tech jobs have poured into Austin since then? And that's a cohort that just has lined up so well with F1. And then of course you had the magic pixie dust that the Netflix series has sprinkled on those people and get them to realize, if they were unaware of F1, just how amazing a sport it is.
Yeah, and thinking about, you talk about Netflix, but look at the numbers from the 2 national platforms. You've got ESPN on television, satellite, SiriusXM on satellite radio. Both of those, the numbers coming out of there are huge, right? The increase in the viewership is just skyrocketed, like nothing we've ever seen. So you're in the middle of what is probably the fastest growing major sport in the United States, which is saying something.
Oh, it's absolutely is. And the unbelievable thing is, if you look at the total penetration from a viewership standpoint or engagement standpoint, it's still fractional. You know, it's a small part of the audience, which tells us that even though growth is just, it's wildfire growth, tells us that there's a huge potential upside from here. And, you know, if you think about the 5 big sports leagues in the US, I mean, they're pretty mature right now. And in fact, some of them, you know, have their own issues in terms of fan base atrophy. You know, I mean, would you today rather be involved in F1 or baseball, if you know what I'm saying. I'm not
Yeah.
in baseball. I love the sport. It's a magical pastime, but no one's saying, my God, baseball's on a crazy growth curve right now. And there's saturation on those sports. And this really appeals to a much younger demographic. And again, it's a very sophisticated demographic. So that bodes well just in so many different ways for the sport. And the Circuit of the Americas, it's the living, breathing epitome of it in the Western Hemisphere. So, awesome setup.
all of that has played up, and I've seen, like I said, we've talked about Netflix for a couple of seasons now, how that has fed into the group and the demand. And then we said in the first segment how this was the largest population, largest attendance at any Formula One race throughout history. And I had to clarify that with somebody. I was like, no,
ever.
not just COTA, everywhere in the world.
That's right.
And then he goes, well, when are tickets going on sale? I was like, if I knew, and I directed him to the website. There's an email alert to sign up for and all that. But that is, to me, taking this guy that had near zero motorsport interest, got hooked by Netflix, heard about the record attendance, and now he's like knocking on the door, waiting on the tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. And by the way, just one little thing where we're going to beam for a little bit here. As COTA is the previous record was at Silverstone. That was over 4 days of racing. So this was over 3. So that even speaks to the massive achievement. And I've got to say, one thing that really surprised me when I got to COTA was how small the team is there relative to the output. I mean, it is really impressive that the group is, it's not a very large group, and yet it handles these massive events. And what we just went through in the fall, I mean, how crazy was that? Moto, F1, Rolling Stones, and we even put on right after all of those, 20 odd nights of the Penman Parkway Holiday Festival. That's the same group of people did all those events. I mean, it was jaw dropping, and look at the quality of the production all the way down the line. So it's they're battle tested, and now as we head back into a more regular schedule, I think it gives us time to work on enhancing that consumer experience, that fan experience in a much different way. And let's be honest, right? Cars aren't driving through the forest for 2/3 of the track here, right? And this isn't a street setup where they're racing through a parking lot, or they're racing in and out of a downtown where you can't do much. Our group of COTA looks at the entire campus and says, how do we turn this into an unbelievable experience for the fans? Whether it's building the super stage for the elite concerts that it does, or if you just go around to the different villages and attractions that it's had at F1. I mean, it was like you could spend different parts of each day for 3 days there and never come across the same thing twice. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I wondered how, I mean, obviously once everything gets hot, as it is in Formula One here in the States, everybody wants in on that product. And now we've got Miami and talk of Las Vegas. I'm sure we've already booked our tickets. We're on our way, but I'm sure you'll be an interested party, whether you go physically, but to see how they do it and maybe learn something that makes sense. But really, in terms of how you look at this, the models are so different. Like you say, Miami is a street circuit, Vegas will be. So can you, there's certain things you might be able to learn, but it's a very different model, isn't it?
It is. It's a really good point, John. It is a different model, but I want to be very clear. They are not competitors. They are business partners with us in growing the sport in North America. We wish them every success. We want to learn from them. We hope there's things we can help them with as we go forward. But, if we can get to a point where we have 3 races in the U.S., you're starting to get the critical mass. And we're not concerned that another race will supplant Circuit of the Americas. We know we have a leadership position, and we really want to see these other races thrive. The more people that can experience it, even in different settings and different formats, and talk about 3 great cities, right? If we get Vegas to cross the line, it's like Vegas has its own amazing types of charm that make it a real unique destination, a unique global destination. And then you have Miami, which is really a gateway to the entire Americas. And then you have Austin here, which is this really unique blend of, elite, sophisticated tech corridor meets Texas. And you overlay that, that Willie cowboy hippie nexus. I mean, it's a hell of a recipe.
We're not changing.
Hope not.
Well, Mark, we really appreciate you coming on the show tonight. We're very excited. We wanted to hang out with you some more and talk about this whiteboard and see if we can help with that. Anything we can do.
He ordered 11 more. I bet one of them has Speed City on it.
But Mark,
Sure will.
Thank you very much for coming on, and we wish you luck with all the endeavors that you're about to jump into.
Thanks. Anytime, guys. Happy to join you. If you need information from us, we're always there. We consider you guys a really important part of the connective tissue and the lifeblood for F1 fans and what we believe is the best racing platform experience circuit in the Americas. So thank you guys for all you do, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.
Great.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. All right. Talk to you soon.
Ciao. Bye-bye.
All right, everybody, let's get a break in. And when we come back, we got some Formula One stories. We got a little NASCAR to talk about and a little bit more. You're listening to Speed City live from Austin, Texas. Back after a quick break.
Hi, this is Gene Haas, and this is Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Thank you, Mr. Haas, for bringing us back. And we're going to talk about the Haas F1 team. We're going to talk about Haas, and we're going to talk about some other car launches because we got Formula little stirring up some activity. We're also going to talk about the cage match that NASCAR did today, a little bit later. And we're going to also talk about this huge, giant Lewis Hamilton story. So stay tuned for that, tongue in cheek, firmly planted. Jonathan, what do you think? What do you think about the new Haas F? Well, first of all, let's talk about the launch. That was kind of not really a launch, was it?
Well, if you upload a photograph to the internet, is that technically a Formula One launch?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Can you really have a show with people in 3 different locations? They all have to be in the booth. Hey, it's legit to me.
I mean, I got a text from Nikita Mazepin saying that the big launch was going to be downtown Moscow, dancing girls, woolly hats, the whole drive around the Kremlin on with him. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the big launch.
No, that was lunch. There's a big lunch.
Oh, lunch.
Lost in translation.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Oh, pot kettle.
I think it was a case of let's just get in before anybody else because we're not going to make a big song and dance of it. So they're first in one thing, launches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're.
I don't mean to be rude when I say that, but they didn't seem like they really achieved much with it.
That's right. So February 4th is a couple days ago, Friday. We had Haas. Let me tell you about what's happening this week. So Red Bull on February 9th. Aston Martin on the 10th, McLaren on the 11th, and then Valentine's night, don't get yourself in trouble, AlphaTauri. And that'll take care of this week for you.
There you go. Which one of those are you looking forward to, Jonathan? I mean, what do you think?
Obviously, my girlfriend is a racing car, so clearly AlphaTauri.
There you go. Let's see. Somebody's asking some questions on Facebook and YouTube. By the way, thanks for watching on those. Give us a like on YouTube. Are you guys in the studio? Dan says on YouTube. Yes, Dan, we are in the studio. Les and I are in the studio. Jonathan is not. He is at his home studio here in Austin, but we're going to all be in the studio sooner than later. But let's look at some of the other stories. So we got all the launches coming up, and but Jonathan, you had some interesting things you put in the doc here, and one of them was talking about the F1 gossip about Verstappen to Mercedes.
Well, I mean, why not? In other words, because Hamilton, I'm back. Lewis, I'm back. Hamilton, is up in the air as to his future. He might be back on social media, but he still hasn't said whether he's going to be racing or not. Yeah. So the question was, could Verstappen fill that role? I think it's almost impossible, but that's how rumors get started in Formula One. It's worth a conversation.
I want to hear Toto say, Hamilton, you're on the chopper.
Yeah.
That was so bad.
Helmut Marko said,
as best as I could get. Come on.
It was what, Jonathan?
Helmut Marko said, I don't think Max will leave us. And and I think the heat makes him less likely to switch sides.
Hey, and if you were not privy to Twitter or Instagram or wherever he did it this weekend, Lewis Hamilton just tweeted and posted, says, "I'm back." And that's all he said. He didn't say, "I'm back, I'm coming back racing." He says, "I'm back on social media." He just says, "I'm back." It looked like he was standing in the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, he's
It's
standing
gotta
next
be,
to the
right?
Grand Canyon. It was like, okay.
Well, or is that the chasm between himself and the FIA?
Very
Ooh.
nicely played, Mr.
Ooh.
Green. Nicely played. So yeah, that's what.
You crack you up.
Hey,
I tried.
I'm going to do a little diversion here. Just Les, I didn't really watch this NASCAR insanity that the preseason start, but you got to watch some of this
I
today.
did. I watched the.
You said it was actually kind of cool.
It was actually pretty cool. Yeah, it's taken care of. It was taking place in the LA Coliseum, where historically, the Olympics have been there. There's been so many cool events. You'll see the Supercross take place there, and that's always fun. But to have NASCAR construct a track on the floor of the Coliseum and run it, well, that's quite a major feat. But here's one thing that was really cool. So they broke it down to like groups of 10 that would go out. And if you've been to the local round-around track, it's very much that same format. You get eliminated, if you're not in the top 4 or 5, depending on who you're sanctioning with. And it goes through a series of elimination heats, and then they keep advancing. So it was really cool. But the most amazing thing I saw was in Heat 3, I believe it was. We had 3 cars wide, and we're talking about, gosh, I think it, exaggerating, might have been a quarter-mile oval. It's really tight, and so I absolutely loved it. It was fun to see that in what really reminded me of the Roots racing, and that you'd see here at your local rodeo arena, or
except
small
that
track.
it was in the LA Coliseum. What
Exactly.
a crazy location and the amount of work they had to do. I was reading some article talking about all the work that they did to put it in there, and now they're going to yank it all out.
And I saw a lot of comments online talking about this isn't real racing, and I'm like, have you been to your local dirt track? This is your local small track, dirt track, asphalt, whichever.
It's preseason.
This is pretty serious.
Yeah, I mean, and it's
Great
preseason.
entertainment.
I give it to NASCAR for shaking it up a little bit. Let's try some things, right?
I agree.
What do you think about the whole format of that, Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, besides just, obviously I didn't get excited about it. It ain't the Daytona 500, and that's when it all begins for me. But what I like about NASCAR, and frankly, I think they're being forced into this. Jeff Gordon's gone, Jimmy Johnson's gone, Earnhardt's gone. So the big names that you could count on for your audience week in, week out, as crowd pleasers, Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin, and all these guys are great. Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch, great. But I think it's a transformational time for NASCAR, and what they're doing, what Steve Phelps and his team are doing, is trying new things. And they had COVID to do that, with terms of trying like Charlotte Roval, for example, and more road courses like COTA, and all of them have been welcomed. Who would have said Austin could create a NASCAR crowd as it did? And we pleasantly surprised to see such an outpouring of fans, even despite the weather. So I think NASCAR's trying different things, trying to take its product to the crowd, and putting it in a stadium like that is one way of doing it.
Yep.
It is. And I wanted to mention it with Mark earlier while he was online, was that the thing that's unique, he alluded to Spa, walking through the woods to it, so many of the city races or street races, Monaco. COTA is extremely unique in that you get to see more than a blip of a car going by.
Yeah.
You see, a couple of seconds at any given view almost of these cars going by, whether it's Formula One or any of the other groups that comes through. And that's highly unusual for a GP circuit.
Mm-hmm.
No, he mentioned Silverstone there, and to be honest, it's such a different thing, or a different experience. The British will put up with literally standing there in the rain and getting 4 seconds of Hamilton zipping by every 2 minutes, and that suffices. Whereas I think if you took a section of that crowd and dumped them at turn 1 at COTA, they would be in awe of what you can see and what's available and the things you can do and how accessible drinks and food are, et cetera, zip lining, you name it. But I think it's a good example. If Silverstone's the second most popular, it's such a different event because Silverstone is a bit like the 500 in that people camp and people stay and people come and make it their summer holiday at Silverstone. Whereas this is definitely fly into Austin, 3 days, etc. But there's no reason, especially with NASCAR, that it couldn't create that. I know they've been making a lot of effort on the campgrounds and the RV setup, and it is popular, but I'd love to see it more like a festival like that.
Hey, speaking of NASCAR and COTA, we've got, of course, NASCAR coming back to COTA again. Last year was huge. It was a huge crowd that turned out for that in the rain. But we got them coming back March 25th, 27th. But did you guys hear about the hairball?
I don't know.
The
how to
hairball,
answer that.
the hairball coming to COTA? Apparently.
Oh, hairball are playing, yes.
Yes, hairball are playing. I didn't. Thank you.
At the amphitheater.
I didn't know how to answer that.
I didn't know what a hairball was or who the hairball was, but apparently, Jonathan, you know about the hairball?
Oh, absolutely. Cough one off each morning.
Well, apparently they do like
Poor Murray.
they do
Murphy, yeah.
they compilations or something, or I don't even know what it is. You'll have to look it up, but I was kind of intriguing, and apparently that's going to be the after party that will happen on Saturday night. Will be hairball and driver appearances and all sorts of cool stuff. And they had also announced this week there's a track pass, $59, get pre-race concert, driver introductions, and pits and track all access, all at NASCAR at COTA. But hey, guys, let's take a break.
I've heard the fans are gagging for it.
They are. Let's
Don't you
take a
throw a
break,
hissy fit.
and we got some more motorsports fun for you after these messages. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jenny Gow from BBC F1. You are listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
So you guys, when Mark Pannes finished up a little while ago, he gave us some nice compliments. Do you think he's still going to think that after that last segment we just did? But we're going to
Oh, come on.
we're going to raise the bar a little bit, guys, because we're going to talk.
Meow.
No, Jonathan put in a great story in the show doc today talking about F1's new robust governance, and just the language of that. The headline is raising our
Stiff upper lip.
Yes. So, but it's a great story, Jonathan. Jump into that.
Yeah. So in the maelstrom that was the end of last season,
Yeah.
the election of a new FIA president, Mohammed Ben Sulayman, who is an ex-rally car driver, very successful, and I think a great appointment to replace John Todd, although many may not know who he is. He's a very successful and well-respected racing driver and businessman. And I actually think he's already started. They had their first FIA World Council meeting, and basically that was last Thursday. And in that, they said they were looking for governance topics such as transparency, collaboration, etc. And I think that because of what happened at the end of last season, the timing is right. He's also made some key appointments, one of which is Sam Michael. And those that know their Formula One over the years will know that he was a very respected engineer in Formula One for the likes of Williams and so on. And Sam Michael will be the new president of the Safety Commission, replacing Patrick Head. And again, much of a different character, a younger guy, and an important role. Also, Felipe Massa becoming president of the Drivers' Commission.
Yeah.
And Michelle Mouton as president of the Women in Motorsport Commission. And I really do think these are groundbreaking maneuvers by the FIA as they set out to say that they want to reach objectives. The federation's governing bodies and administration will work closely together to make the FIA the global voice of motorsport and mobility. So heavy-duty mission statements, and they're not hiding. They're looking for transparency. They're looking for a fresh brush to sweep in the new era. And I say, here.
I like the transparency part, except I don't want transparency in one respect. I don't want the conversations on between FIA
Yeah.
and the team managers.
Well, I think that's already gone.
I know. I just when I saw transparency, I immediately thought of that. But well, that's good. I mean, I hope that they can achieve those, and it does make sense.
Yeah, I wish him well. He's coming at a tough time.
Yeah.
But
somebody responded on Facebook a while ago. They said, "Did anyone think Lewis Hamilton was not returning?" And you know what? I was maybe a little joking, but there was, we had Chris Medlin on the show last week, and he responded to that exactly by saying that there was a chance that he might not. And it sounds like to me, if you want my interpretation of what happened, I think Lewis said, you know what? It sounds like they are taking this seriously and they are going to make some changes. Because, Lewis Hamilton really could walk away, right? I mean, he could walk away, and
he doesn't have to ever get out of bed again.
Yeah. So, but I think
I'd like to put a footnote on that. I know he's come out and said I'm back, but in other words, he's back on social media. So we've all assumed that means he's back in Formula One. But the cynic in me says George Russell's really, really good. The 22 cars are really, really unknown and not yet to be driven until the 23rd of February. And talk to me on the 26th of February, and I'll tell you what Lewis is doing.
No. I think there's a number 8th championship that he must win for his own satisfaction.
I don't know. No one knows. We could speculate till we're blue in the face. No one knows.
We would.
Jonathan, you chatted and you had another comment, or do we already talk about that one?
That was it. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I mean, that's not my hope by any means. I'm with Les. I want him to come back, and I also want him to win the championship fair and square with no controversy, and then sort of literally go, good night, drop the mic.
Yeah.
Speaking of British drivers,
yes,
one of our favorite British drivers just won the Autosports 2021 British Competition Driver Year of the Award, Driver of the Year award, and that was Lando Norris.
Lando.
Yay!
I like that.
I thought that was a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah, I don't know the criteria, but I can see how that's a little bit of a surprise. It's not Max Verstappen who won the Formula One championship. It's
Right.
not.
It's
I don't
not
know.
Lewis. Well, it's interesting. I had a phone call with somebody from London here just recently, and was not motorsports related intentionally, but it wound up there, of course. And they expressed how divisive things are, or how divided things are in the UK about Lewis.
Oh, really?
I find that interesting that
Huh.
really this guy's, I don't know what, one of the top drivers in the world. And I get maybe you don't like some of his personal antics or his wardrobe, but anyway.
Well, what do you think, Jonathan? You're from the UK.
Yeah,
There you
the
go.
Brits are funny. They would much prefer a Damon Hill or a Nigel Mansell, who, the underdog, the guy that, pushes his car across the line, the guy that could never beat Michael Schumacher, but had a go at doing it anyway. That's the British way. Or a Tim Henman, or our sporting heroes are guys that face the impossible and still come through. So, Lewis doesn't fit into that category. He's a winner. He's more of an American.
I kind of feel like his somewhat boastful, presence in the way he presents himself is he draws a lot of attention to himself, very American-like, if you will. Where I'll say most of the other British, I think of the ones that you mentioned, and they weren't somebody that really drew a lot of attention to them personally.
No.
So I kind of feel like that may play into it as well.
And that's why they love a Roger Federer. Quietly goes about his business, isn't too showy. Yeah, the British are still pretty standoffish when it comes to their love of a sportsman. And like you say, Lewis is a modern day sportsman, and he fits more into the NBA sort of outlook in terms of clothing and his own vibe and so on than he would necessarily into the traditional soccer or motorsports hero.
Les, you put in a story here about Stefano Domenicali wants extended F1 title battle in 22.
Yeah. How about that? we hear about this once in a while, but I'll say never from somebody in that position that wants it. The concern about adding any more races, whether they're, 2 in a weekend or whatever, my concern with that is the exhaustion of the teams, risk goes up, cost goes up, operating cost goes up for the teams, especially the back grid folks. All of that. Quite honestly, I think we're just about at the quantity of races we need to have it frequently enough that we're not in trouble with your household partner that doesn't like it or won't let you watch it in peace. But the other is it's
Household partner. I like that.
yeah, there you go. But significant other, something I don't know.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. Household
So
partner.
anyway, yeah, it doesn't take so much of your time that you're watching the TV every weekend to keep up with it. I like that. Now, I could do that, but in the true world, I don't think having a race more frequently than we already have it is good for the sport, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I think 23 is too many. I go back to the days when we had 15, and that was still seen as a huge effort on 4 continents. So I do think that we are getting to a saturation point, and I know it's how Liberty's model kind of works, but I think 23 is too many. I would cap it at 20.
Yeah. I mean, they've talked about all different solutions, right? How they have 2 different sets of teams within each team, and these teams will do this weekend, these teams will do that weekend. But man,
that ramps up the cost
yeah.
for a team to be competitive in it.
Hey, I got a cool story I want to talk about. I've had it in the show doc for at least 2 weeks, and it was talking about all these about the opportunities for investors, and really it boils down to the fact that for American companies, excuse me, that's the real key to this, is that with the ESPN numbers and the Netflix series and all the attendance and all the things that have gone on last year in Formula One, how exciting it is. It's really bringing out the investors, the people that want to get involved in Formula one way or the other, whether that's through sponsorship or through, and a lot of them are talking about buying teams. And I'm like, you probably should have bought one a year or 2 ago, because the price of teams, have you guys seen the numbers are throwing around now for teams? I mean, the old model of like the Mauritius, right? For example, where they
Right.
come in and they do the same thing every year, the same way they've been doing it, and until they go bankrupt, right? That's a quote from Gunther Steiner. We had him on when he said that, and it's so true. The way Haas has done it and come in and turn this team. Now, what do you think the Haas team is worth now? I bet he's really glad that he called up his friends at Uralkali and got another year on 2 years now of life left in the Haas F1 team. But this story talks about how more and more Americans and companies are getting involved. Obviously, we've got the Haas team, we got Zach Brown, Doralton Capital Williams, and you've got the other group, MSP Capital, headed by Jeff Morad. But with all these ESPN numbers, and now Miami, there's all these things, and these Forbes is one of the places where they're quoting. They're talking about has valued the lower rung F1 teams now is worth low 9 figures, and Ferrari and Mercedes is slightly above $1 billion. So there's a massive interest in investors. So
yeah, and John, can I make a footnote again on that one? I would say that the cost cap, the 140 million, which is going down actually, but it started higher and now it's I think that 135, 140 million. That cap has also helped investors get a much better understanding on what, if they invest, what their return is going to be, which if you were part of a Marussia or one of the teams that's now gone, sadly, you couldn't have done that. And so I think it's helped them make that decision and made it easier for them.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because they're seeing that because those old stories, there was, everybody looked at it like, you're not going to make money. How much money are you going to invest and not expect to get a return on that? That way of thinking is not going to work. Oh man, we had a caller. We had Corvette Mike call in, but we are completely out of time, Mike. We are down to the last few seconds. I'm sorry,
Maybe he
buddy.
wants to invest.
Maybe he wants to. Maybe he
Where's
wants
his
to.
Corvettes?
Yeah. Sorry, Mike, we couldn't get you on, but thanks for calling in,
next
Mike,
week.
and thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks to Mark Pannes for coming on, and thanks everybody for watching on YouTube, Facebook, and of course, check us out on our website, Speed City Broadcast. Follow us on Twitter and all that other stuff, and we will talk to you next Sunday night.
Ciao, y'all.
Happy trails.